There are some people that start their business in entrepreneurship and they say, well, I'm going out on my own. This is going to give me more time. I'll be my own boss. I know when I started my business, my lady was saying, well, I want you to stop working full time for the corporate stuff. You work too many hours there. If you go out on your own, you'll have more time to be able for us to be able to spend together. Yes and no. I was home more, but it didn't mean that I didn't work more. I still had to take the time to build up the business because I needed to match my check. She liked to travel. She liked to go out to nice places. I need to be able to match my check. And that ramp up period is something where if we're looking at 18 months, if I didn't have things in place, if I didn't put the time in that I needed to be able to figure out how to match my check, then that was going to get spread out into a much longer time. And that sign off that I got of, yeah, I want you to be able to do this. I support you. I'm with you 100%. 6 months in, when I wasn't able to answer questions the same way, seeds of doubt started to get planted. A little further into it, a year in, it's like, okay, well, I see you making some money, but when are you going to get back to the money that you were making before? It's not that we don't go out. It's that when I say, let's go out to dinner, you're like, well, I can cook. Well, I know you can cook, but I'd actually like to be able to go out. And then you're giving pushback that that person may not have gotten. And all of a sudden you're asking a lot of them, but when they ask something of you, it's like they have to fight you to be able to get it. So I don't want to just talk about strategy. I want to talk about how professional decisions affect our personal life and our personal life affects our professional decisions. So there are times where someone can say, you know what, I'm going to go into my business. I've got a good year to be able to kind of figure things out. So I don't have to rush into doing anything. What happens if the person in your life loses their job? We're seeing a lot of layoffs. All of a sudden you're in a position where you may have to be the breadwinner. If you went into it winging it and saying, you know what, I have time to be able to figure it out. Do you really still have time to figure it out? Or will it be one of those things where hindsight is 2020? And if you had just taken the time to get those things set up and put in place initially, when that catastrophe happened, when that bad thing happened, when things shifted, you were already in a position to be able to go, you know what? I see you're overwhelmed. I see you're stressed. I see you're down on yourself. Don't worry about it. I got you. That is a completely different situation. That's where you ask of someone, you know what, I'm going to start my business. I'm going to have to take a little time away. I may have to put a little more on your to-do list. You should put yourself in a position to be able to reward that person and give them that time back, give them that attention back, give them all the things that you're asking to be able to take away back sooner. And if not, at least be able to give them some kind of clarity on why you can't do it in the time frame that they thought you were going to be able to do it. So actually, while I was going through making revisions to my products and services, the more conversations I have, this is why I do the networking calls. I started having conversations and I started thinking about and hearing more about all the people who stepped out on their own to be able to do their business, but the effect it was having on their personal lives. Nobody wants to go into entrepreneurship and sacrifice their relationships and the people around them. If they knew that that was going to be the case, they probably wouldn't do it. And if they did, they would do it in a different way. You have to know what you're willing to be able to lose in order to figure out what you're willing to gain or what you stand to gain. It's something that if you don't think through, that's part of strategy. Strategy is saying, okay, well, if you want this, it means that you may have to risk this, or it's going to cost you this to be able to get to this point. That's one of the main things that a strategist is really going to be able to identify. The upside, the downside, the risk, the challenges, the strengths and things that you can rely on. It's going to be important for you to be able to understand those things and really make sure that you know what you're willing to risk, you know what you're willing to, what you stand to gain, and you're putting yourself in a position to be able to go up against that failure rate. 20% of businesses fail within the first year. 50% fail by the fifth year. 65% percent of businesses, as far as small businesses, fail within 10 years. Again, that number goes up. It doesn't go down. So it's not a matter of you getting smarter. It's about you having a strategy that allows you to be able to adjust when industries change. We're in a period now where AI is taking over a lot of things. How many copywriters, how many web designers were perfectly fine in their business? And then all of a sudden AI came out, the website builders came out. The easier it becomes to be able to build a website through a website builder and have AI do it for you, the less people feel like they need to be able to have a web designer do it. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't people paying web designers and web developers to be able to build their sites. It's just those are people that are probably more seasoned with their business and realize, you know what? I did the starter site. I got something where it was just enough. And I realized at the end of the day, it wasn't enough because I could get people to the site. But if the site didn't meet the standards of everything that was coming out of my mouth and they got there and the site was half measures, then I was losing half the people that I got there. So those people are still going and paying a web designer. They may pay them that 10, 12, whatever money that it is to have the website built, but it's because they realize their initial step wasn't the step that they needed to make. So that money that they invested in that starter site, or the time that they spent building up a starter site themselves, trying to DIY it, that time you're spending goes towards that failure rate. If it takes if 20% fail in the first year and it takes you a month, 2 months to be able to get the website done, if it takes you a month, 2 months to be able to figure out your messaging, if it takes you a month, 2 months to figure out who your audience is, think about how much time you're allowing to go by. And while that time's going by, that's why that failure rate goes up, because so many people start off thinking, I can figure it out. And then once they're in it, they don't have time to figure it out. By then, they have customers. They've started generating money. They've started getting to the point where they've gotten reliant on the money that they were generating. You can't afford to see a fall off like that. If you're year 2, year 3, and you're finally getting to the point where you can forecast sales, let's say you know you have 6 good months, 2 slower months, and then you have the rest of the year. If you have a business that focuses more on people being in the house, summertime tends to be slower. So what do you do when you know that summertime is going to be slow and you're not going to get as much business? How do you plan for that slower period? That means you have to do really good during those busier times and put that money aside so that you have it during those slower periods, and you're not acting out of desperation, because desperation has its own scent. And when people smell it, there are people that are looking for someone that is so desperate that they will overpromise, and then that person can start to ask for more. And it ends up being a bad experience because you took the job because you needed the money, but then that person has really high expectations, and then you dread doing the work and you don't have a good conversation with them. You don't enjoy the project, and that comes across. So if someone gets that feeling of, I'm paying you and I feel like I'm getting attitude from you, that could be something that's a bad customer experience. And then that's one less reason for that person to give you a testimonial, to refer you to anyone else, because they're not thinking about the results. They're thinking about the experience they had to get to those results. So again, strategy. If you put things in place that allow you to be able to not only identify who your audience is, make sure that your brand messaging is right so that you can talk to the right people, and you have your value proposition in place. And value proposition is just another way of saying, here's the boundaries. Here's what I'm about. And when you pair that with who you're saying you want as an audience, you're saying, what I'm about. Here's who I am as a person. Here's what matters to me. Does the same thing matter to you? Because if it does, I'm your guy. I'm your gal. I'm the person that you want to be able to work with. And in those situations, that's where you start to find your ideal customer. If you're not doing that, then you run the risk of getting someone that may not feel the same way. They may not be aligned. They have their own agenda, their own motives. You have to be aware of what you're putting yourself into. And acts of desperation don't allow you to be able to do that.